Welcome to TECHsplained, my new video series where I attempt to demystify technical trail riding by hopping off the bike and discussing concepts such as line choice, points of no return, and islands of safety using real-world trail examples. And at the end of each video, I'll put it all together and show you my fastest top-to-bottom run. In the end, a technical trail is just a complicated puzzle and it's your job to solve it. And this video is brought to you by Wheels by 𝙎𝙖𝙾𝙎. Looking to upgrade that wheel set that came on your bike? 𝙎𝙖𝙾𝙎 has a wide variety of hubs, rims, and even custom spokes ready to build at a moment's notice. A professionally hand-built wheel set will stay true far longer than a machine-built stock wheel set ever could. Find out more and get a $50 off custom wheel set discount using the link in the video description.
Alright, today let's pick apart my favorite trail, which has to be Trunk Monkey. So right off the bat we have a bit of a skinny to an up and over. Now you're going to want to wiggle your bars by this, and then as soon as your bars are passed, you should be able to just roll right through. Woohoo! So Trunk Monkey is probably the most feature-dense trail I know. And it's important to keep yourself composed at all times because there's always going to be something next. So for the first corner, you want to go pretty slow. And then if you spot the roll down, it's just as simple as rolling down a staircase. Now, there's a couple of moves later on this trail that we're definitely going to hop off the bike and explain in a bit more detail. And that would start with this corner right here. So it doesn't look too hard, but the problem is people tend to blow out of the corner because they take too far of an inside line. Now, what you can do here is take quite an outside line rolling into things, right where about those skid marks are. And then you can hopefully stay quite wide here and then cut in before you get sucked into this trough on the outside. You can take the inside line, but you need to have a lot of grip going over this step, and it would be quite tough to make the corner. Definitely slower, but certainly doable. So let's try to get the outside line. All right, coming into this, we're gonna wanna stay mostly on the rock, and we're gonna cut outside here. And then once we get down the step, cut inside a little bit, and then we don't get sucked into the corner. The next move is a bit of a skinny drop onto a slab. Now, there's nothing too special about this. I don't think it's that rollable. So you want to carry a little bit of speed and then just plop on and then you control your speed because you have nice grippy granite. Now, we're coming up to the hardest point of the trail already. And this is definitely worth hopping off and taking a look. So the first thing I see is looking at the run out. There's a slat that is loose on that ladder bridge. Now to get there, you have to go through a bit of a rodeo section on this rock. Now, it's not too bad. And especially when it's dry, you're able to control your speed pretty well. So as long as you aim straight for this bridge, it should be no problem. But the bridge itself is pretty tough because it turns just enough that you probably can't just roll it. At least on my big heavy bike. Oh, convenient, I can push them in. I have to get my front tire over here and then do a little bit of a hop to get the rear wheel around. You always want to check woodwork like this when it's old because it's not always the safest thing. So not the worst feature in the world, but you're going to want to always stay composed, control your speed, and then make sure you get your rear tire around this tight corner. If you take the inside dirt line, that would be pretty tough because you'd have to angle your bike away to make sure you don't hit your hand on that rock. So let's get it. Okay, rolling straight in, we're going to look at the woodwork and we're going to aim straight toward it. So if we can control our speed, go over here. Actually, you can roll it, but I still like hopping the back tire. And now we're at the impossible corner already. So this one we will definitely pick apart. So I've had one pretty scary incident on this. What catches people up is that this rock, although it looks like nice grippy granite, I don't think it's granite. And it's definitely not that grippy. You will slide at this portion if your brake control is not absolutely dialed. And it just keeps going. So it gets quite hard in the wet to the point where I don't think it's safe to ride. And even in the dry, making this corner is pretty tough. So we're gonna get to that part in a minute. But for this top portion, this crack right here, it scares me a lot because what it can do is if you have too much brake and you're at too shallow of an angle to the crack, it can catch your wheel, both front and rear, and send you off into nothingness where you don't want to be. So what I do here is I stay on the rock for as much grip as possible, stay rider's right as much as possible, so that I can come at this crack at a more, intense angle, rather than such a shallow angle. So I want to be at a sharper angle so it doesn't catch my wheels. And then coming into here, this is the impossible corner. Now, I think it's possible to do without a hop, but what happens is that the rock changes right about here from a grippier rock to an even less grippy rock. And that rock right there in the corner, you do not want to hit with your pedal, your foot, or your derailleur. So the goal here is to stay as high as possible for as long as possible, and don't get sucked into this by skidding or by just being scared and taking the channel. So by staying wide, you keep your front tire super, super wide, getting around this with your rear tire, and then you can point into the woodwork. So pretty scary section, definitely the corner that I see people dab the most on this trail, and it's called the impossible corner for a reason. And then we get into a bit of a wood roll down into a rock garden. So we'll go down there, take a look. But the good thing about this is that the wood has a very aggressive sort of chicken wire on it. So that makes it very, very grippy in almost all weather conditions. And you can control your speed quite well down here. And as soon as you hit the rocks, it's more about maintaining speed rather than slowing down. But the runout has a bit of support. And if you have too much speed, you can always bail out to the right. But what I believe the main line to be is coming over here and then going up and over this rock. So just a way to make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more feature filled. And as long as you can control your speed coming down this section, it's not too much of a problem to hop into this. So let's go back up there and see if we can put all of that together. Okay, so coming off the old woodwork, we're going to want to control our speed. So the first thing I'm going to do is a bit of a grip test and see how grippy it is. So my rear sliding, front feels pretty good. I want to stay as wide right as possible, but staying on the rock to maintain speed, control. And then I want to cut over the crack and stay high, as high as I can. So my front slid there, I let off the brakes. And now, keep my front wide, and you can do it without having to pivot. Now, tons of grip here. I want to just maintain speed. I can look up for this rock, and then you can ride it. Woo! Super fun section. Now, there's a couple of bar checks. So you want to point your bike where you feel like you have the most grip for your tires, and then you want to shimmy your bars around these rocks, because it would not be super fun if they touched. So here, my bike is quite far left, and I want to wiggle a little bit to the right to make sure the bars go away. This, same thing. I want to wiggle a little to the left. Oh, great conditions today. This little drop corner thing tends to catch a few people because there's a root in it. So you can go inside, but you're a little bit more exposed. I would go outside and just roll down the rock. Now we are at the next crux. And this one's pretty scary on a long bike because it certainly wasn't designed for it. Now, first thing I notice is that there's quite a bit of exposure off to the right, so I don't want to be doing this if I'm not fully confident. I don't want to be having to take my foot off, and it's tight. So you're going to want to stay as wide as you can with your front wheel, so that your rear wheel tracks still on the wood, and then you want to bring your front wheel over to the other side and do the same thing so that your rear wheel doesn't fall off the left. Now, lots of chicken wire, tons of grip, so it's just a matter of staying calm, not track standing, and not losing your balance. Easier said than done. Now, once you're here, the move keeps on going, and this is where I would say most people crash on this trail. Now, this first rock is a bit off camber, so you're not going to want to brake too hard, otherwise you're going to get funneled down to the right, and you might even miss the wood. So you want to keep a little bit of speed on this so that you have some stability, and then once you reach the wood, you've reached more of this grippy sort of chicken wire stuff. So the rock, steady speed, wood, control your speed, maybe slow down, and then this part is pretty tough. So the main line is over this rock in the center, and as you can see, a lot of people hit a lot of different things on their bike on it because it is quite a sharp breakover point. Now, the tricky part here is you're going to carry a little bit of speed in because you want to stay a little bit of speed on the rock and then a little speed on the wood. So by the time you get here, you really want to control your speed in this little compression and ride over this as slowly and smoothly as possible. Taking the outside line is quite hard because there's no support in the corner. Taking the inside line is not really an option, so you want to be controlled here. Now, some people will hit their butt on their tire coming off of this little step, and what that does is it will propel you over the bars into the next few corners. So it's all about speed management, especially on the wood in the first rock, and if you come in with a good amount from there, you should be just fine. And since we are here, the next two moves are just some pretty tight switchbacks. So you want to stay wide with your front tire, and you should be able to roll your back tire around. Now, the next one is a little bit tougher because there's an off-camber rock on it that slides you around. It's a helpful camber because it points you in the right direction, but you will expect your rear tire to slide on that to make it around the corner. So let's go see how well we can control our speed given the moon dust. It's also worth noting that with old woodwork features like this, it's a very smart idea to get off and shake them around before to make sure they're structurally stable. So I've ridden this trail a lot, I know it's good, but on an unfamiliar trail, I would definitely be getting off and really poking around. Okay, so we're gonna keep our front wide, never stopping, and then keep our front wide again, never stopping, and then here, we want to keep a little bit of speed on the rock as we said. We're going to slow down on this wood, and then what we can do is, I can stop here, not always, that's not always possible. So it's all a matter of using a lot of body language there to really suck up the bike and make sure you have as much contact with the ground as possible. So that was quite good, I was able to stop, but that's not always the case. So tight switch back here, front wheel's a little bit wide, don't love that. And then here, again, you want to slide the back tire around and make it around. Here's a couple steps. It is extremely loose right now. And we're coming into a bunch of different line choice. So the right line is not always intuitive. And in this case, it actually is the right. So we want to go slow over this. Then there's a little bit of a bridge on the backside. Stay on the rock to maintain as much traction as you can. And then here, same deal. So you want to stay on the rock, brake as hard as you can on the rock, look around the corner, and it should be just fine. Now this slab is inviting because it wants you to go faster and faster, and it's pretty fun. But on the exit, there's a very tight corner. So what's on the right of this tree is actually a braid. The original trail is on the left. So you want to control your speed through that. Here is a couple of steps, so you can just roll down them. Nothing too bad. And then the original line here, I believe, goes left. So that's what we will do. And it's an interesting one. So let's take a look. Now, a couple sticks on it, so it's not like super intuitive. But once we remove those, you can see the line that I like to take. The line that people get funneled into because they see dirt is this outside line. But the outside line's scary because the compression does not have a ton of support, and you're always kind of fighting the camber to stay on the trail. So the way I like doing it is actually far rider's right. So it involves quite a tight corner up the top. Usually you have to endo around it, and then you have to use maximum body language, that is like extending and compressing your arms and legs as much as possible to stay in full contact with the ground this whole time. And then you can push into the corner and keep on going. So not too bad. You definitely need to be very loose, very confident on your bike, but other than that, it should be just fine. So let's go get it, and then probably endo turn back onto the trail. Okay, I know I want to be quite tight right in a sec, so I want to stay wide left, and then I want to cut in, stay on the rock to maintain traction, and then here I want to be full compression, full extension, compression, extension, and really move those arms to stay in contact with the ground. Because the more contact you are with the ground, the more control you are going to have. Ooh, that was fun. And then here we have a very dusty chute, so you just want to control your speed, and the compression is not too bad. Few little corners to go. Still hard. That is a brilliant trail.
All right, narrator here this time. That's because my battery died because I filmed the climb up. So there's a couple corners left. The first one is a bit of a loose chute right here into a corner. You just want to control your speed, look around the corner, and you should make it just fine. The next little feature is a plop drop, and you definitely want to stay quite far left. Otherwise, you're going to do what Dave does here, bam, and hit your chain ring right on that rock. Now, the final feature is a handful of tight switchbacks. So in the dry, you expect your rear end to slide like Dave's did there, and in perfect conditions, you could probably get around without having to slide the rear tire. Now, these aren't too tricky, but you want to be sure that you're not braking too much so that you slide your front, because then that's how you get out of control and have to dab. So with that, Trunk Monkey is complete. So there's obviously a lot to this trail. Let's see if we can put it all together and get the fastest run around.
Well, it was a success, I'd say. Cleaned the two trails that are new. Well, new to us, definitely not new. And now we're riding our favorite trail on the map. We're gonna see how fast we can do it. Oh, that's a greasy inside braid. Apparently this has dust on it. We're gonna open it up. We're gonna cut in. Almost jackknife. Flip it over. Oh. That's a fresh bear poop there. Hopefully you don't see him. Oh, link arm slide after front wheel slide. Wow, this is very, very dry. Gotta write all the A lines. Oh, didn't make that one, but that appears to be the new main line. Gotta do this one because it's fun. Oh, gotta make it. What a great trail. Ooh, 2-tire drift. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Link arm. Very, very, very loose. Whew. That was a wicked day on Cypress. Holy moly. Feels really good to check all those features off and then get a clean top to bottom on my favorite trail. Oh, good fun.